So we have Dolores here, and she is going to show us some of her beds. She's just starting to grow right now. And right now she has her potatoes in here with skewers. And you want to tell us why you're doing that?
I put 3 potatoes in here. They're old potatoes. They are actually surprisingly growing little bits of green, but I put them in there to see if I have any wireworm. They will come to these potatoes, and if I do have them, they will show up and I can get rid of the potato and then put more potatoes in until I don't have wireworm. And then I will do all of my potatoes, but I'll do them in like layers. So this is going to be my first layer, and as soon as I get my greens, I'll bend them over, put soil on top of that, and put one more layer on top, and then I will have potatoes. Because I'm starting late, I won't get potatoes until late, probably September, October, but that's fine. I'm looking forward to potatoes for comfort food in the winter. And this is my answer to big slugs. I've tried everything, diatomaceous earth and slug bait, but when it rains, it doesn't work anymore. So this is called hardware cloth. You can buy it in a big roll like this from the hardware store. And I cut it into 2-inch strips. I bend it a little bit. And when the slug comes coming up here, they can't get over this tine. And so the big slugs don't go into my bed. The only slugs I get are tiny baby ones, and those ones I can deal with. But the big slugs, I don't get big slugs at all.
Yay.
Cheap way to do it,
Yeah.
and effective. Out. I get mushroom manure and I put it on top of my bed. I dig a little bit in, and then I get some black plant pots and put like 3 of them along, put a stick on top of it, and then I put this black plastic over top to heat up the compost in there so it cures over the winter time, instead of doing it now where the mushroom manure might burn the roots. This is just black plastic. You can get it at the hardware store again, and I reuse it every year. And when I take this off, I will end up with really nice soil that is nice and fluffy. It's not super wet. And that's the other thing about it, is that my beds won't leach water through, and they'll be all ready for me in the spring. Okay, so this is the bed that I get the most sun in. So I'm gonna put my broccoli and cauliflower, and then when I get carrots, I'll put them in at the front there. I'm also getting Brussels sprouts, which I'm gonna leave for this back area here. But what I've done with this bed, first, the reason it's so high is because I have a bad back. And so instead of having to constantly bend down, I can just lean against here, and it's really easy to work with. Before I plant there, I mixed up a bunch of coir, which I use instead of peat moss or sphagnum, because this is much more, it works exactly the same way as sphagnum or peat, but it is sustainable. Carbon is exactly the same for shipping, but this is just used up coconut shells, and they call it coir. Holds water, allows it to breathe, and I also added some perlite for the same reason, give the roots some place to move around, and I put in a tiny little bit of vegetable fertilizer. So I've put that all along these troughs here. And when I'm going to go, there's a big space between here, because I'm going to plant one row here and another row there. And when these start to get a little bigger, then I'm going to seed in here, so that when these ones are ready to come out, I'll still have more to come up. So I'll be putting seeds all along this little mound here, this little berm that I've got going. So this is different types of, this is called green Goliath. And I'm just going to pop those in there and push the soil around it and pack it down nice and easy peasy. I'm gonna plant them. I've heard that you're supposed to plant them like super far apart, but I think I kind of like that they're going to be closer together because I can get more in and I can cut leaves off if I need to before the heads come on. And so, yeah, that would be what I'm going to do all the way along, and this whole bed is going to be filled up. So, there you go.
Thank you, Dolores.
You're welcome.
So Dolores has these beautiful onions. They're green banner bunching onions, and the great thing about onions is that they are super hardy. You can actually cut the top off here where the brown is. Make sure it's well watered, and you can tease the individual onions apart and plant them in the ground. So even though it looks like it's a big bunch of onions and you're gonna have to plant them in a bunch, you don't have to. You can actually tease them apart, plant them individually. They're great to plant around carrots and other vegetables because they sometimes will deter the bugs. They can't smell through the smell of the onion. Okay, so here's some water catchments that Dolores has coming off of her roof into the first rain barrel. And you want to tell us a little bit about how it works?
Okay, so to start with, I put a roll of plastic up on my roof so that I didn't get the grit from the shingles.
Oh, smart. Yeah.
And so the water comes down and it flows into that pipe.
Uh-huh.
I have an on and off switch there, so when the first one's full, I turn the lever and then this one gets filled up.
Oh,
so
smart.
As opposed to having it
Yes.
in between. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
And then I put in these spigots
Uh-huh.
that I got at the hardware store or Slug, and I just turn it on and I get water.
Cool.
They're up on cinder blocks, 3 cinder blocks per. And a lot of people have said that when they're using the silicone, it gets leaks. This is construction glue, and it doesn't come off. It's there. This has been here for 8 years.
Wow.
So don't use silicone, use construction glue. Yeah.
Oh, smart. Okay.
And I had to cut off a little bit of that so that it would turn.
Yeah.
And I just rigged up a hose.
Yeah.
It was easy. Drill a 1-inch hole into there for the pipe, and that was it.
Cool. And you got 5 gallons of
55?
55 gallons. Wow.
So 110.
So 110.
And then when it rains, I have all these little runoff places that I put buckets everywhere.
Oh, smart.
So that like when this is full, it'll start spilling over the edge. Yeah. And I put buckets underneath. So
and it gathers more water.
Last year, I didn't use my hose once.
The whole summer?
The whole summer.
Wow. That's impressive.
It was great, actually.
Yeah.
So,
oh, thank you for that. That's great. DIY water catchment.
Yes.
For summer watering.
And cheap, because that probably cost me a total of $100 for the both of them.
Amazing. So great.